What's up, you beauties? Welcome to another preseason post-game show on the HW Hockey YouTube channel. I'm Jim Iacovone. The Flyers fall 4-1 to the Boston Bruins in Boston in the Flyers' sixth preseason game of the preseason already. They fall to 3-3. Tough one tonight. Flyers weren't really in this game at any point. They had a rough first period where they were outshot. I believe that the period ended up 17-4. Luckily, with the play of goalie Sam Ersson, the Flyers only came out of that period down one goal. Sam Ersson stopped 32. I'm sorry, he stopped 30 of 32 shots against tonight, allowing just two goals. The Bruins wound up scoring two empty netters there in the third. But overall, solid game for Sam Ersson, who I thought was the star for the Flyers tonight, where there weren't many guys who were kind of showcasing their talents and their skills tonight. I thought Sam Ersson really kind of stood up and kept the Flyers in this one for the majority of the game. Which I think is huge. So I'm going to focus on the positive first here, and Sam Ersson was just that, as I mentioned. Huge question mark for the Flyers this year is the goaltending position. So while maybe the play in front of him wasn't great and what we all wanted to see against the Boston Bruins tonight, because the Flyers iced a pretty solid lineup. They were one of their most complete lineups, if not the most complete lineup of the preseason tonight against Boston. They kind of put up a dud against some of Boston's better players. Sam Ersson kept them in this game. I mentioned the goaltending position for the Flyers has been a huge question mark. Sam Ersson, for me, is solidifying his place as the Flyers' number one goalie. If you guys listen to Jason Martinez during the intermission periods, and Erson mentioned this himself, I think in an interview with Jason Martinez, that he's more mentally prepared for the load this season, which makes a lot of sense. Last year was kind of thrown to the wolves, thrown into the fire after the Carter Hart stuff happened. Not to say that the Flyers didn't know it was coming, but I don't think Sam Ersson was mentally ready or even physically ready for that kind of stretch of a season. He played a lot of games, and you remember there were times last year when we were all very confident in Erson. He was keeping the Flyers in games in the season. So I think we're going to see more of that guy this year, and he's showing you that he can be that guy in the preseason, right? I think he had a solid showing against Washington in the first game. The Flyers won. And as I mentioned, he stopped 30 of 32 shots in this game against the Bruins. Flyers didn't give him much help tonight, but I think we can leave this game feeling confident in Sam Ersson, and that's huge heading into the regular season. Now you have Ivan Fedotov, Alexei Kolosov's here now. The Flyers' goaltending position, there are questions being answered heading into the season, which I think is what you want from the preseason. You want to go into the regular season feeling confident in the goaltending position, and I think we're getting there, right? Maybe you want to see a little bit more from Erson. I think that's fair. I think I'm sold. I'll just say it. I'm a Sam Ersson believer. I believe in Sam Ersson. I think he's capable of being the Flyers' number one goalie. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be a star, top 10 goalie, but I think he can carry the Flyers through a regular season. I think he's capable of that. So Sam Ersson, obviously the star of the show tonight. Now, who else do we want to pick out tonight? A guy that I wanted to watch. So the two players that I really wanted to watch tonight, because I know that Oliver Bonk's getting a look. I think he ultimately gets sent back to junior, right? I know that Hunter McDonald's getting a look. He's going to the AHL for me, no brainer. Anthony Richard is getting a look. 29 years old, basically an AHL guy. Been around for a while. Can I give you on Anthony Richard real quick? So he's got in some games last season with Montreal, 13 games, 3 goals, 2 assists, and he played 2 games previously with the Nashville Predators back in 2018 and 2019. So as I mentioned, been around a little while. ESPN does not have his draft statistics. So let's see Anthony Richard. Yeah, so drafted in the 4th round, 100 overall in the 2015 NHL draft. He's 27 years old, not 29, so that's a mistake by me. Um, Last year in the AHL for the Providence Bruins, 25 goals, 30 assists in 59 games. So, look, this guy can skate. He's got some speed to him. There was a play tonight where he ended up getting a chance in on goal using his speed. Did not convert. But I think if he can be coached up a little bit, this could be one of those kind of guys that bounces back and forth if the Flyers go through some injuries. Anthony Richard's a guy that they can give a look to. So, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm excited for Anthony Richard, but the Flyers signed, they gave him a 2-year deal, and I think it was a pretty good find, a pretty smart signing. You need these guys with the Phantoms, right? If the Flyers are kind of transitioning to the skill and the speed aspect of things, which they should have done a long time ago, you need those guys in the AHL too. And, this way it's not just a Flyers roster that's, changing over and turning over. It's now the AHL roster. We're getting the influx of players with those particular skills. So while I'm not overly excited for Anthony Richard, I do think, as I felt about, some previous games, there were some bright spots to his game. He's just you notice him when he's on the ice. He's all over the place. Whether he's actually doing anything, if you guys disagree and want to tell me you're not seeing positive things, that's fair. I'm not watching him like I'm watching Jett Luchanko, but I know that when number 90 hops over the boards, I find myself watching him. So there you go with Anthony Richard. So the other guy, obviously, that I was watching tonight was Jett Luchanko. And look, he's the hot name, right? The Flyers, obviously, he's the Flyers' first-round pick. He looked good in at least one of the rookie games, and he looks good in camp. John Tortorella's on record of saying on the standard that he's going to give Jett Luchanko and Oliver Bonk extended looks. He did that tonight. The Flyers iced almost a complete roster, and Jett Luchanko had the 3rd most ice time among Flyer forwards, playing 17 minutes and 41 seconds. Now, he played a lot, took a penalty, 2 giveaways in this game. I gotta say, while maybe he doesn't look totally out of place, because I happen to think at times he does, right? But this is going against what the Twitter timeline would have you believe, right? So the Twitter timeline is looking to confirm what they want to be confirmed, which a lot of these guys want to see Luchanko make the Flyers out of camp. And that would be great if, and I'm speaking from my perspective now, if I saw the things that would, say, okay, Jett Luchanko could be successful and help the Flyers win games immediately if he makes this team out of camp. I don't see that in these preseason games. I got to be honest. I'm not looking for a guy that can just kind of hang around. And in the 2 games that I've seen Luchanko, one live, one on TV, I'm not seeing a difference maker or a guy that's going to impact the game more than Scott Lawton, more than Ryan Poehling, more than Noah Cates as a 3C. And I'm just going to be honest. Anyone who thinks Luchanko is going to impact the game more than any of those 3, I think is being a little dishonest. And I'm not sure why, because I'm rooting for Luchanko. I want him to play well. I just don't see it right now. I'm just being honest. And this is the 2nd game I've watched where we're early in the 3rd period. I'm talking 5 minutes into the 3rd, and he's gassed. He's out on his skates. We saw that. You could see him kind of rocking back on his skates. He's standing upright kind of thing. And, that was one shift. And the very next shift, he turns the puck over on a play that he normally wouldn't make, if he's not drained mentally and physically. When you're tired, you start making mental mistakes. First the brain first the body goes, then the mind goes, right? And so when you could see him physically tired one shift and then make the mental mistake the next, it's like, okay, we're seeing now, and I said this in the first game, the pace of play in the NHL is a lot different than the pace in juniors. And that's not to say that Luchanko is slow, because he can skate. But for me, he's a couple seconds behind the play. Whether it's 1 or 2 seconds, that's a lot in hockey. The play happens, and then Luchanko reacts, where he's just not picking it up in real time, if that makes sense. So, but that's not to say he's not going to eventually. He's just not there yet. And that's okay. He doesn't have to be there yet. He's just turned 18. I don't think anyone was expecting him to make the team out of camp. We'll see. Maybe he takes this knowledge and this experience that he's gaining, which is invaluable, back with him to juniors. Maybe he lights up juniors. And depending where the Flyers are in the standings, maybe we see him for a cup of coffee at the end of the year, or at the very least, he comes into camp next year knowing what to expect. Maybe he hits the weight rooms in the off season, and comes in a little bit more filled out. This is still a kid, and he's going to be a kid for a few more years. So, look, I'm not expecting him to come in this year or even next year and break the door down to make this roster. I won't be upset if that doesn't happen. To me, it's a bonus if he does. And I genuinely think that a Scott Lawton will have a more impact over an 82 game season on during games than a Jett Luchanko right now, right? So those are my thoughts on Luchanko. I don't even know if I gave him the 9 games. The Flyers start out the season on a big Western trip. Hang on, I'll get the schedule for you guys real quick. So their first game comes on Friday, October 11th, which would be 10 days away. Their last preseason game is Thursday night at home against the Devils. So they start out with a big 4-game road trip, Canadian road trip, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, and it wraps up Thursday, October 7th against the Seattle Kraken. So Flyer season starts October 11th. They're not back home for a game until October 19th, which is eight days, right, in between. What's Luchanko going to be doing, right? Because I don't think you want to start him on the road if he does make the team. So, and my reason for that is because if I'm an opposition coach and I see Luchanko out on the ice, I'm starting my top 2 lines against him all night long. All right. And it's not going to be pretty. I'm just being honest. So we're talking, okay, let's say he makes the team. He's just going to be hanging out for 8 days. I'm not sure how many games Guelph plays in that time period. I could look it up. I'm not going to right now. But he could be in games with Guelph. He could be getting game action with Guelph. So I think I just send him down. You're going to hang him. He's going to come home. The Flyers play Vancouver, a tough team, and then they have 2 games against Washington back-to-back, October 22nd and 23rd. I'm not putting him in either one of those games. If the Flyers are to be competitive this year and they're going to push for a playoff spot, they can't really tinker around with Luchanko. These games are just as important as the games at the end of the year. If you're not 100% sure that not only can he make the team, but can he make an impact in the game, during the game, then why put him in the lineup? If he can't positively impact the game, why risk that? If he can only impact the game potential in a negative aspect, it just doesn't make sense. Let him go get the playing time with Guelph as their number 1 center instead of playing around as Flyers 3C. He's not going to be lighting the world on fire. Look, let's just be real. He was the 12th pick in a weak draft. Temper expectations a little bit. It looked great against other rookies, which you want. Looks good against, in camp, during drills, against the Flyers, against his own teammates. That's fine. Against NHL talent, grown men, men, Luchanko's still just a boy. So, look, I hate being the guy because it sounds negative when everyone's positive and wants this kid to make the team, right? It sounds like I'm being negative. I'm just being real with you guys. I'm being honest. This is what I see, and I see a kid that's not ready to play in the NHL. I don't even know if I would give him a game, let alone 9. I think 9 is insane. So let him go back to Guelph. Let him get his stuff together. Let him do his thing. Scored 20 goals, 50-some assists last year. He should blow those numbers out of the water. He's been with the Flyers now since August, it feels like. So, he's been here a month, made some connections, met his teammates, future teammates and whatnot. Great experience for him. I'm sure John Tortorella will pump his tires before he goes back. And now he's got something to play for all year long. Expect for him to have a career year and a push to make the Flyers the next year. So yeah, those are my 3 guys: Erson, Anthony Richard, Jett Luchanko. Flyers fall to the Boston Bruins 4-1. As I mentioned earlier in the show, they'll play their final preseason game Thursday night at home at the Wells Fargo Center. I'll be in attendance. We'll do a post-game after the game, post-game show after the game. And yeah, hope to hear from you guys then. Make sure you guys leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and yeah, drop a comment too. I like to hear from you guys. I recorded this episode instead of doing it live. It's 11:30 at night. Sure, a lot of you guys are in bed. You better be. Just kidding. All right, guys. For HW Hockey, I'm signing off. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow night with Jack. Bye.